this one's going to be an interesting one because I feel like there's a real conversation to be had. There's a lot to it, and I kind of think I'm the perfect guy to have this conversation. But there's also the realization that this will likely get misconstrued, and a lot of people are going to get mad because I'm telling the God's honest truth. Mike Gundy's the head coach of my alma mater at Oklahoma State. He's a football coach. He's the winningest football coach in the history of the program. He's done an amazing job. I consider him a friend, a mentor, someone who I text with occasionally, gives me a ton of personal and professional advice. I like him a lot. And I do understand, on some level, the realness that he wanted to share with the world and relate it to how he's treating the Doak Walker Award winner, Ollie Gordon, after his DUI arrest last week. On the other hand, what? So here's Mike Gundy, Ollie Gordon, who didn't really. This is what's crazy about it. The first 3 games last year, he split time. They had 3 running backs and 3 quarterbacks. By the time he became the go-to running back, then he became the best running back in college football. He had an amazing year. Ollie Gordon is a beloved figure. I believe he's making somewhere close to 7 figures to play football at my alma mater. He's done anything and everything in the name of the university, gone to events, shook hands, kissed babies. Like, in terms of trying to earn it for appearances, he's done it. But then he gets a DUI arrest last week, and this was Mike Gundy at Big 12 Media Day yesterday.
So I looked it up on my phone. What would be the legal limit? Like in Oklahoma is .08, and Ollie was .1. So I looked it up, and it was based on body weight. Not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life, and I, it's just fine. So I got lucky. People get lucky. Ollie made a decision that he wished he could have done better. But when I talked to Ollie, I told him, I said, "You're lucky you got out light because you make a lot of money to play football." So back in the day, being able to cover the cost of what he's going to go through would be difficult for a college player. It's not for him.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not speaking for him, but I'm just saying that's not an issue for him. So nobody got hurt. I said, we see people doing this and people losing their lives across the country, not just football players, but everybody. So you got out lucky.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of contradictions within it, right? Because he's right. Ollie was very lucky. He's right. People have done this. Now, one of the miscalculations is the 3 or 4 beers. That's 3 or 4 beers in an hour. Right? You have 3 or 4 beers, you're not going to, over 4 or 5 hours, you're not going to go over the legal limit. You have 3 or 4 beers within the hour, you will. I am not some prude. I am not some unrealistic human being. By the way, am somebody who's committed a criminal offense, which is very different. But I'm not going to sit here and deny that I haven't deny that I've made the wrong decision more than 10 times in my life. But not only am I not going to say it, I know it's not true. It hasn't been over 1,000 times, not even 10 times, in which I've had a couple beers and got behind the wheel of a car. And I think everything about it was off. Everything about it was off. Like, your best player, your highest paid player, gets a DUI, and your response to his punishment isn't, we're going to run him till his ankles smoke. And look, I get it. The off-season suspension is stupid, right? But his punishment is I'm going to hand him the ball 50 times? Excuse me? How could we possibly have gotten to this point where Mike Gundy says a couple of the right things? Hey, he's very lucky that no one was killed. Very, very lucky that no one was killed. And he needs to face the music. But what music? Answering a couple hard questions? That's it? That's the music? Paying your own legal fees? That's the music? I can't even begin to comprehend the conversation that Mike Gundy had to have today with Chad Weiberg, his athletic director, or Dr. Shrum, his president, over what he said. That one blows my mind. That his punishment is going to be facing the music, but not extra conditioning or running in the Oklahoma heat, and not going and doing community service with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or not taking away the keys to his car. He makes a decision that he probably shouldn't have made. No, he made a decision that could have taken his and other people's lives and taken the power of somebody. His powerful decision can cost. Did anyone see the car accident? What was the Minnesota Vikings football player that was killed with two other football players over the weekend? Kyrie Jackson? Have you seen his car? His car was completely and totally annihilated. No one survives it. And reportedly, alcohol played a factor. Look, I've been hit by a drunk driver before. A guy blew a .24 and nearly ended me on the West Side Highway in New York. But I'm not too close to this one. I do understand. I've had a couple beers and got behind the wheel of a car and not felt good about it. I would never say I've done it 1,000 times. And I haven't done it as an adult because I've grown up and I'm matured. And I understand that while that doesn't mean it should be a death sentence to Ollie Gordon's career, the idea that the highest paid member of a state institution, the winningest football coach of all time, says that he's done it 1,000 times and the punishment should be handing him the ball 50 times in the opening game is so remarkably obtuse to how it comes across. It is mind-blowing. And I'm sure Mike will hear this, and maybe he'll be upset with it, maybe he won't. I know they've released a statement, which is on social media, about what I meant to say. It doesn't matter. Nobody goes back to the what you meant to say was. And even in what he meant to say, what he's doing is all that matters, which is nothing. What are we doing? Yes, he makes a lot of money to play football. And so the two things that should happen when you have a DUI is, one, you get some of the money back, and two, you don't get to play football as much. Well, if I suspend him one game, it doesn't do anything. If I suspend him 6 games, maybe, but then that's unfair to the rest of the team. Is it? Yeah, I know it is. I know it's unfair to the rest of the team. But that's what Ollie Gordon did. He did something incredibly selfish, and there needs to be a punishment for it. Otherwise, why not do it again? Well, next time, we're going to be really serious about it. Like, really? And I understand there's an embarrassment to it. There's the legal fees. Nobody's technically harmed. Okay? But to whom much is given, more is expected. And this is not not what anybody would expect a response to be from a decorated, crazy successful Division I men's head football coach. And I do believe that Mike is about the right things. I love the honesty with which he shares things. But if that's honesty, then, dude, honestly, over 1,000 times, and I don't think he read the chart correctly, but regardless of which, if over 1,000 times, and I think that's an embellishment, you've gotten behind the wheel of a car having drank potentially too much, like, I don't even know how you would handle that. I don't. Does it hit you differently, Jason Stewart? Am I missing something? Am I being too by the book? Am I missing, or how does it land on you? That's my question.
To answer your first question, you're not missing anything. I think everything that you just said is absolutely true, and you're speaking from a point where you could relate most of anyone in this room. You're in a different position now. You represent your university, and you're a leader of young men. Public comments should be much more filtered. I guess you could appreciate the honesty, but this is like if I sat down with Mike Gundy at a bar after a couple Budweisers, that's probably what he would tell me. But that's not a great barometer for how you should answer questions at media days when your conference is being in the spotlight for a day. So I thought it was pretty damn stupid.
That one, holy cow. And just so people are aware, I do not have rules, like written down rules, with my team. The rules that we do have is if you've had too much to drink, okay, you are to call me, text me. There's a group chat with any other player. We have the managers as well. And if it gets to me, I will come pick you up wherever you are and drop you off where you need to go. No questions asked. But if you get behind the wheel of that car, okay, I lose all sorts of power because I can't change what the police will do. I can't get involved in a police thing, and I have no time for people who commit a DUI. And I say the same thing about if you smoke. It's illegal in the state of Wisconsin. If you get behind the wheel of a car and you're smoking, you get behind the wheel of a car, and I've also said if there's any sort of beef between you and a woman, you are to get away. And if you need me to pick you up, I will pick you up. No questions asked, no judgment. But you are not to get behind the wheel of a car if you've been drinking or smoking. So that's one where I know there's going to be a percentage of people who are like, finally, a coach who's honest. But like, if that's your reality, that a thousand times you've gotten behind the wheel of a car having 4 or 5 beers in an hour, 3 to 4 beers in an hour, that's a really scary thought. Even if it is true, it's not to be said, and it shouldn't be true because that's a lot of times. That's a lot of times you've made a bad decision. Yes, Chris Perfett.
I think that point you just made there is the most salient. I was talking with a friend about this lately, and for those, you don't know this, Doug, but there is a back at the middle school I went to, there is a bench there with my aunt's, with my past aunt's name on it, who died in high school because of a car accident. That I think sometimes, especially thinking about, you see someone cutting you off or weaving through doing 90 or in DUI, like we don't have respect for the power at our hands that a automotive vehicle gives you. You are piloting tons of metal, flying at inhuman speeds that are not natural in the world out there. And I think in our country, we just have no respect for the power that's in our hands, or that we don't think of anyone but ourselves on that road, which we share out there at the end of the day. And I think when you start talking about DUI, that is the ultimate sign of disrespect for that power at your hands. It's really sad to hear these comments. It just does not seem to, again, reckon with the fact that you have the power to just kill multiple people with this vehicle, even stone sober.
Right, but I mean, again, the bigger point is you're not just making a bad decision for yourself. You're making a bad decision for people you don't know, you haven't come in contact with, and you know what I mean. Like, I cannot fathom the response is 180 degrees in the wrong direction of anyone who has any sort of pulse of what the response should be. And look, here's how friendship works with me is I can't be friends with you if I can't share that response is way off. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't consider Mike Gundy a friend, and I wouldn't stand up for him and say he's done 1,000 amazing things since he's been the head coach at Oklahoma State. including turn around the team last year and do it his way. And he's about the right things. But this is wrong. I mean, a day in which Brett Yormark had some awesome comments and really amazing what the Big 12 has done off of death's door. And the only thing anybody's talking about really is Mike Gundy saying, yeah, basically, I've gotten behind the wheel with too much to drink 1,000 times. And, yeah, my punishment for Ollie Gordon at getting a DUI, the best running back in the country, is I'm going to hand him the ball 50 times maybe in the opening game. Yikes. What year is this? What country are we in? These are not things to be celebrated. All right, coming up next in the Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. By the way, this was what Mike Gundy said since. My intended point today at Big 12 Media Days was that we're all guilty of making bad decisions. It was not a reference to something specific. Dude, you said I've done it 1,000 times. And there is no punishment there, other than having to answer questions about what he did and apologize.